Hey guys, so as I mentioned in the channel update, originally I was going to do this, or originally I had done this with the GoPro, but unfortunately that met its end because the battery that I put in it, well, the little tag you pull to get the battery out of the camera broke, and thus the battery got stuck and I couldn't get it out. And let's just say one thing led to another, and now the GoPro, because of the battery, is history. But I will be getting myself a new one very soon, hopefully down the line. But that's not what I wanted to talk about, just popping my ears there. But anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is what everybody in the wrestling IWC and YWC is talking about. And that is the fact that this past Wednesday on Dynamite, AEW and Tony Khan introduced a new championship to the already established lineup of championships they have. That being, of course, the AEW All-Atlantic Championship. Now, as I mentioned in the original go-around with the GoPro, I do like the fact that the title kind of pays homage and tribute to the old Mid-Atlantic title, except you're switching out the word mid for the word all. And I think, besides that change, I think it's a nice little, homage to the classic NWA championship. Now, with that said though, the reason this has become a talking point, even to this day, due to the fact that Rampage is also going to be associated with it tonight in the little tournament they got going, Eliminator tournament they got going. Basically, the reason this is such a topical point that's got people discussing it even now is basically the question is that people are asking, straight up is, does AEW need another championship? Do they need another title amongst the championships they already have, under the roster, in their possession? I mean, along with their already established AEW championships, that being the world title, the women's title, the TNT title, the TBS title, the tag titles, they also have, because of Tony Khan's purchase of it, they also have the Ring of Honor Championship, World Championship, the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship, the Ring of Honor Pure Championship, the Ring of Honor Television Championship, and the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles. And, when you look at all those championships combined, I mean, like I said, you got from AEW's side of things, you got, let's see, the world title, the TNT title, the TBS title, the women's title. That's 4 singles titles, and the tag title, that's 5 championships on the AEW side of things. And as far as Ring of Honor goes, being a part of the AEW brand, basically, you now have essentially the Ring of Honor title, the television title, the women's title, the pure title, and the tag titles. That's 5 championships on their end. And now you're adding to the AEW side, you're adding the All-Atlantic title. That is essentially combined 11 championships. Now, some people will come out and justify the fact, like JD, that AEW has the roster to do it, unlike WWE. But I think what JD is, failing to realize, and he probably does, but, he wants to basically prove a point that, when you have a massive roster, then, yeah, you could justify having all these titles, and when you don't, you can't justify it, and he has a point there. But I think what JD is failing to realize is the hardcore wrestling fan base today, the reason they question, companies like, AEW, as I check my time here for a moment, but the reason they question AEW doing this is because of the fact that they just want, championships to truly mean something, like in the UFC. As I've mentioned before, you can thank the UFC for allowing the combat fighters, the MMA fighters, to do a little flipping kicks during their matches on pay-per-view and all that inspired, professional wrestling companies like Ring of Honor and others that followed to apply the same methods for their men and women that compete in the ring. But still, again, long story short, a lot of hardcore wrestling fans rather have, a company just have maybe 3 to 4 major championships at most. You have a world title, you have a secondary title, which could serve as the Intercontinental title. You can have your television title, and you can have your women's championship. That's what, 4 singles titles and your tag titles, and that's it. So that's like 4 to 6 or 5 to 6 championships that you can single out, or that you could focus on. You don't need to focus on anymore. You don't need to add anymore. And yet, that's exactly what we see happening. That's exactly what we see happening in AEW. Now, the way I look at it, as I mentioned in the original recording before the whole issue with the GoPro, is I think the reason Tony Khan is doing this is he wants to make good from an international standpoint with a lot of these international partners like AAA, New Japan, potentially Rev Pro in the UK, and so on, by having a championship that may be or could be defended, outside of AEW and all these other promotions. And I think that's why we're getting this All-Atlantic Championship, due to the fact that maybe, again, Tony Khan wants to make good by saying, here's a championship that's going to be an AEW title, but it's an AEW title that can be defended outside of the company. That's just my opinion. But honestly, is adding one more championship too much? Is it going overboard? Maybe, maybe not. I think what's going to happen eventually is if I'm going to give Tony Khan credit possibly in doing the right thing, is he's going to probably have certain Ring of Honor championships be absorbed into each other. Like, I think if he's going to reduce any championship titles, he's going to maybe, in my opinion, have in the future the pure champion and the TV champion face off, where whoever wins, the loser's championship gets absorbed into the winners. So I could see that maybe being a solution. Like I said, I could see that maybe being a solution. But we'll have to see what they do. But it's kind of like, it's kind of like people, when they complain about this, it's kind of like making the comparison to someone, being told, okay, you've reached your limit in drinking by the bartender or by the friend, because once you drink a lot more and more and more, it's just that you become obsessed. You become like, you can't stop. You got to have more. You got to keep going until somebody tells you enough. Enough of the championships or enough of the drinking. You're done. And you can make that kind of a comparison. There's no doubt, in my opinion, you can make that kind of a comparison. But hopefully, this will be the last championship that he brings into existence for AEW. And I think, honestly, again, I believe this is being done to make good with all the international partners they have, by allowing them to have a championship that not only represents AEW, but can be defended in places like New Japan, in places like Rev Pro, in places like AAA and all that. But we'll see what happens. Again, hopefully this might be the last one that gets introduced for quite some time. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys, on the All-Atlantic Championship from AEW. Do you think it's one title too many? Do you think they need to potentially absorb certain championships into each other from the Ring of Honor side, maybe, to cut down? Let me know what your thoughts are. Comment below. I got to get into work now, guys. And I am out. Y'all have a good day.